Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RIFC Nation. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and a huge shout out to all of those who have served or are currently serving to continue to allow us to enjoy life the way we do here in the USA. We're a fan created podcast by two native Rhode Islanders talking all things Rhode Island FC. Each episode is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this video. We are 3 subscribers away from 100, so will you be number 100? Maybe you
Ooh.
will. Let's see what happens. Each episode is also available on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it. And we'd also really appreciate it if you take a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review if you can. It just helps more people find our podcast and get more people on these live streams and keep them going. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm joined by my trusty sidekick, Ryan. We're going to try to keep this one shorter than the Dells line at Byrne Stadium, but we'll see what happens there, as it was a beautiful, beautiful Saturday afternoon, and the Draw Kings continue to roll. Ryan, how's your weekend going?
I was excited to hear what the Dells joke was going to be, and you nailed it. So,
Hey, and I'm gonna crack a Dells shandy right now. Yeah, I know
we're
it's
going with our
Memorial Day
good friends from Narragansett as well. So,
fresh catch. Hey, that Dells line went past the porta potties. That was absolute insanity.
and there's a second one too that was just as long at the front of the stadium. I mean, I get it. People from Rhode Island, listen, it's hot weather. Dells is flowing. There's beautiful soccer being played. I mean, I can't blame anybody, but that was a really long line.
I do like the long loop around campus on the way out just to avoid the line, even though we like wait after and Zach gets his scarf signed and all of that. But there was a Dells like big box truck there.
Oh,
And
I
I'm
saw
like,
that. Yeah.
oh, that's where you're gonna get the Dells today.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
I'm surprised there hasn't been some kind of like the town heist that has happened on the Dells truck yet, but we won't give anyone any ideas on the show.
that's a great movie, The Town.
Joe Mazzulla agrees. So,
my brother and his friends have had a fantasy football league going since that movie came out, called Boston Sand and Gravel Fantasy Football League. One of my favorite lines: "Boston Sand and Gravel, fuck you." It's just a movie that lives in infamy with New Englanders.
it's just too many good one-liners. So,
Yeah, we are here to talk RIFC as always, and we'll definitely get to the match this is our match recap episode. But we do have to talk a little bit of housekeeping and team president Brett Louis getting the axe just a couple days before that match, and 10 months into his tenure as RIFC president. Ryan, you and I talked a little bit off air about this. We talked in the Discord about this as well, but we're kind of on the same page as this might not be a negative for Brett.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to preface every single word that we say after this moment, we don't know anything.
Right.
I don't know a single person who works at the club besides the ticket rep who I work with. I don't have any inside info, so I want to be clear we're speculating. But I think there's a lot of different permutations of what this could have been. It absolutely could have been a promotion for Brett. We don't know that, but at the same time, like, he's moving over to people might not like to hear this, but Tidewater is going to be the bigger financial piece of this puzzle between the team and the stadium. So he's going over there, and he could be doing such a good job in terms of like shoring up financing on the RIFC side that they're like, we need this guy on the Tidewater Stadium side. Maybe there was some different career ambitions he had. I don't know. I don't know him. I've never talked to him, so I can't give any fair assessment there, but I don't think it is the end of the world. I think we're okay. I think the team now has a vision that they're executing through the transition to Tidewater, and that's what's important.
Right. I agree with you. I think if you follow any kind of football club for a long period of time, you see this happen.
Yep.
More so mine than yours as far as the European front.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah, you see change all the time, although we've had the little bald-headed weasel for a long time. But change like this happens, and from what we've heard, there was a lot of pressure on Brett for sellouts, and I'm going to make a statement that's going to be very unpopular with people on this pod, but like, if we're not selling out a match like we had on Saturday with beautiful New England weather in late May, and we're going to a stadium with double the capacity next season, it's going to look even worse there next year. So obviously the team form will have a big thing to do with that right now as the Draw Kings continue to draw. But we need to find a better way to put butts in seats. And I think that's the number one issue facing this club. So I don't mean it as a negative. I love RIFC. I will continue to support RIFC forever. Continue to do this podcast with my good friend Ryan. But the bigger issue here is we got to get people coming to these matches, especially on these beautiful days. And I was talking with Irvin, who leads the Defiance, before the match. It's been a good time talking to him, and Irvin puts in so much great work. So if you're not a member of the Defiance, make sure you go check them out. Go join. It's totally worth it. It doesn't matter if you sit in section 13 or not. Just be a part of it. Come to the tailgates. That's what supporter culture is all about.
Mhm.
But he said, from what he's heard, the quote cold weather months, and I don't mean quote as like putting Irvin on the spot, just trying to rehash the conversation. The cold weather matches will be 4 o'clock moving forward at Tidewater, and the warmer weather matches will shift to 7. And I've died on the soapbox, in every aspect I can, and everyone I can talk to. The match start times suck to make this family friendly for this club. You can't have 7:30 p.m. Friday night starts and expect families to go to these matches with little kids, because it just doesn't work. This was a 4 p.m. Saturday match, and I was able to bring all of Clan Kerwin. My aunt even wanted to come. So, like, I had 5 tickets to this one, and it was much better.
Yep.
So I do like seeing that. But there's only one more 4 p.m. home start for this club. And I know I know this has a lot to do with Bryant and Burns Stadium
Mhm.
going into this, but if this club wants to be successful and kind of wants to piggyback off of what the Paw Sox had going for their Magic, you have to make it family friendly. And like Irvin mentioned, you have to get fireworks in on 4th of July
Mhm.
and corresponding holidays. But the only way to do that is to make the start times a little bit more fan friendly,
Yeah, I
family
mean,
friendly.
my one, it's not really pushback. I totally agree with everything you're saying. The thing that I think we need all a little bit more patience on is we are all like the hard fans of soccer and of this team. And for those of you who don't know and who didn't get to meet him, I brought my brother this to the game on Saturday.
Another Matt.
Yeah, another Matt. There's 700 of them within Defiance Circle. But listen, like I was just asking him some questions before the game about what he's heard about the team or what, and there's not much going on in terms of like the average casual person who might come to a game or two every year.
Sure.
He had very little to know about the game, and to be clear, he's not some huge sports fan. He's not anything like that, but there's a lot more education and awareness that needs to be built over the course of this season. So while I would love a lot more sellouts, I think the bigger goal for the team this year should be more around generating awareness and excitement about this team, which I think a lot of that will be done on the pitch, which will then be translated to like articles and news stories and things like that. But in general, the more that we can get this team in front of people in the community and get people coming to games, but also just being aware of the team, I think is like step one here before we then transition into Tidewater, which like you said, Matt, those empty seats will be much more glaring.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim says in the chat, Bryant is such a hard sell. Got a
Yep.
friend back to his second game since the opener, in parentheses, the only 4 p.m. game, and another friend showed up to his first. I don't know if I fully agree with Tim as far as Bryant being the hard sell. I would agree with the start times being the hard sell. 7 o'clock on a Friday night, like people want to go home from work. Blue collar people want to go have a few beverages. They might not necessarily correlate that with soccer as we do, as kind of being just fans and
Mhm.
like soccer ultras, if you will. But people might not correspond that. And I think that if you had more 4 p.m. Saturday games, you're going to see more returning people, even 1 p.m. Saturday games. I think the spot is a big difference. Kevin says North Smithfield is a hard sell indeed, Tim. It's not North Smithfield, Kevin. I grew up in Smithfield. It's on Route 7. I grew up on Douglas Pike myself. It's Smithfield. Get rid of the North. North Smithfield is the real hillbillies. Although I live in North Providence now, but I
But
will
wait,
agree
Matt.
with
So
that.
as a fellow native Rhode Islander,
Sure.
an extra 10-15 minute drive could deter some
Well,
folks.
the one thing that you do have to say with Bryant and where it is it's actually easy on, easy off the highway. It's right off 295. So if you're coming from Providence or any point city related, you can do that new very nice merge a little bit further back than the mall as it be now,
Mm.
but to 146 to 295, and it's
Hey,
not
I take it every
hard.
time.
Yeah,
Come
it's
from
not hard.
Providence,
It's
but
it's not it's not a bad get to as far as going there. Um it'll be interesting to see what Tidewater,
Mhm.
presents as far as the parking puzzle, if you will, because Bryant has his own quirks with what it is, because it's a one way in, one way out situation. But things are going to be a little bit more cramped in and around the stadium at Tidewater and that landing. So to see what the parking will present there and what traffic jams, because there's a lot more red lights out in Pawtucket than there are in Smithfield. I will say that for sure. As somebody who went to high school in Pawtucket, so I can speak to both sides of this coin. Did grow up in Smithfield and went to high school in Pawtucket. So it'll be an interesting little bit piece. So North Smithfield is a hard sell. Thank God it's not where we're at right now. So I
No,
did
once we
want
get
to.
the kayak army going up the Providence River up to the stadium, then we'll really get going there.
I mean, if we could have the kayak army waiting in the Blackstone River for some of these shots other teams are missing, it would be a pretty good look. But I think that's the piece there. I think there were a lot of people angry. There were a lot of people really upset about Brett Louis getting the sack, if you will, or stepping down, however it was phrased.
That
But
my issue is like we don't know that he got the sack.
right, right,
Like
right.
I think there's a lot of
We don't know what it
speculation.
is, and the fact that he's kind of staying within the quote family, if you will, of RIFC with the development company is relax. I'm sure there's a plan in place. I know you mentioned interim often leads to permanent, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But
And like,
there's no rush.
yeah, like I don't want to be a jerk to like the president type of title, but this is a very common thing that happens in not just like sports teams, but like literally industries. Like it is okay that this role is open for a little bit. The plans are in place. That's what that person is there to oversee. And
Sure,
now like the kind of more middle
the squad is
management,
built.
like, hey, like Brett Louis, I want to actually say he should be very proud of what he did. He got the Bryant contract set up. He's gotten the Tidewater kind of relationship building. He has a great coach, GM, and a squad that I think we all can be proud of for the inaugural season. There's definitely a lot of good happening with the club, and it wouldn't have happened without him. So he should be very proud of that. And like you said, like he's still within the family. I know he has technically no, according to the press release, no uh, role with the club. He has no contact with the club, if you want to call it that. But I think all of this is pointing to like not some, blow up in the relationship, something
Sure.
like that.
So Kevin did add to our chat. That's why it sucks, because we're in Smithfield, not North Smithfield. And he also said Tidewater is going to be a disaster for parking. I tend to agree there. And Tim said that the Apex lot in a bit of a walk, that might be the easiest way out. And we also had Megatron saying, hello, chat. First time catching you guys live. So
Awesome.
thank you to everyone who is in the chat with us. Just a reminder, the chat's live. You can say hi. You can throw your comments in there. We'll pull them up on air and talk to them as much as we can. We also had from Tim, my bigger concern is Brett is the second high-level exit as far as I know, and they still haven't replaced Vicky Lynch as CFO either. So, definitely something to keep an eye on. I mentioned a few episodes ago how I have some concerns with Kano being the first manager and GM. So it'll be interesting to see how the front office continues to shake up and round out as the season plays on. And I think that's going to be, at this point, now that Brett's gone, more of a results-based business than it is butts and seats-based business, if that makes any sense.
Listen, all I have to say is my LinkedIn is updated. If the club is watching, feel free.
You're a marketing guy, right?
I'm a
That's your
marketing guy. Oh yeah.
so get Ryan in. Get Ryan in. RIFC Nation in.
It could go down in flames, but hey, we'll do it together.
We're doing some pod marketing right now. We gave out a ton of stickers this weekend. So when you go to matches, when you place those on your water bottles, your laptops, whatever, tag us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever your platform you use. We'll retweet it, repost it, share it. We just love seeing everything out there. Or if you see any of our stickers out in the wild, make sure you tag us. We'd love to see them going on there. Tim McDuff says, thanks for the sticker. We got a lot out. We've also got some new ones coming. We did our alternate version of our yellow logo, our road logo, if you will. We've also got some Huck Fartford stickers on the way in. So if you see my ugly mug or Ryan's shiny dome at any of the tailgates, come talk to us, and we'll pass out some stickers, get it going for you. Kevin says he cannot share a picture of where I put my sticker. It's probably in a porta potty at Burn Stadium or on the bottom of a pre-used milk jug that's filled with some kind of Everclear mixture going on right now. And Megatron says, Kevin, I know where you put it. LOL. So let's dive into this one. Before we do, More suits seem to be in attendance at this one, Ryan, as we were kicked off the rail. We were kicked off the rail pretty early on in this one and told to go back to our seats, and that was a common theme throughout. So maybe the earlier starts and better weather that I spoke so eloquently about in our opening are not a net positive for supporters.
No.
It was funny every time my son and there's another little kid that sits near us,
Mhm.
and my youngest son and the other people have a daughter. They were on the rail, and they're all about 3.5 feet tall. Every time they got kicked out, some other kid came down who was about close to 5 feet tall and stood directly in front of me, and I was like,
Well, that's mean to say about Kevin. Come on. Come on.
"Oh, Kevin, stand up,
Oh.
Kevin, stand up." Uh, so, the consistency there, and like you let us do it every game. Why not do it on a nice game where the TV cameras are out? Come on. I benefited. I took one of the chairs and just kind of, pitched it up there and sat and watched. But
I didn't wanna call you out, but that was an A+ move.
yeah, it is what it is. There were a
Mhm.
ton there, so you gotta slide down
I
there next time.
shout out to the security guard, though. He was very kind when he kicked us out.
He was. Tim wants to know. Kevin did say that that was him. He was that 5 foot tall person, but Tim wants to know, is Kevin really 5 feet tall? So
Oh, come on. We gotta give it to him. Let's
we'll
go.
bring the tape measure out in the
Yeah.
Hartford parking lot. He's claiming he's 5'3", but I think that's standing on top of a jug of trunk wine. And then the only other thing I have before we dive into this lineup was I know you rewatched and I rewatched.
Mm.
Did ESPN Plus do some noise cancellation on La Banda?
It was quiet.
Right? Like I've rewatched multiple matches now, and I felt like it was just a very quiet stream in
Mm.
general. I had to turn my TV like way, way, way the heck up. And
Actually, we have a good comment from
yep.
Megatron here. Actually, I think we
Uh,
should address this.
all right. I will definitely get there. I had to turn my TV way, way,
Mhm.
way the heck up to even get like the broadcasters on. But I could not hear La Banda, and I felt like
Well,
that was a noise dampening technology used by ESPN Plus.
it while I wanna pretend they might be that, um, advanced, we also talked about how just there were multiple points in the stream that just, like, red
Oh
screen that you
yeah,
couldn't even
yeah.
watch, so I think it might be more the opposite problem where,
Yes, you talk about like this club getting like recognition from the media, and that's going to come, I think, at first, which is kind of weird to say, more nationally than it will locally, just from being on ESPN Plus and getting tweeted and played out by the USL Championship accounts. But you and I both talked about there was a red screen on that first half, I believe, for a solid minute and a half, and it was like, what the fuck is going on? I sent you a text and I was like, hey, I'm watching this, like, is this a me internet
no.
problem, or like was your stream glitchy as fuck too?
Yep.
And you mentioned the exact same thing. There were a lot of like blocks and panels coming through. It reminded me, like, right now I don't have a cable provider. I have Verizon internet and I
Mm.
stream a bunch of shit legally and illegally. But it reminded me of the days when I had Cox and like um HD first came to the area, and like stuff would pixelate and
Yep.
block out and like freeze. And it was always Patriot games. Like that's what I correlate that with. But the feed and the stream on this ESPN Plus rewatch, and anyone who watched it live, I know Scott and Mouse is in the chat. Did you see that red screen? Was it like, blocky? Like what did that look like? But I think
Oh.
I think the stream itself was bad, and Scott actually already commented and said the YouTube stream didn't go out. I don't think so. YouTube seems to maybe be the play, something to look at. But I know as far as the rewatch options, we'll have to go there and look forward. But your thoughts on the stream in general, Ryan?
I mean, it's not the first time that the stream is from not the best quality. There's been multiple times rewatching it. There's been multiple times rewatching it. Sorry for those listening. There's some banter going on via the comment section and then the
Which makes
video.
it all the reason why you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel, get
Yes.
us to 100, and come join the chat, especially on a long weekend, having a couple of beverages.
Yep.
Sorry, Ryan.
What was I saying? The quality of the streams in general. I don't know. I don't know if it's been the best. There's been multiple times where the camera like just was in the corner. Oh, this is a fascinating. Again, for those listening, get on the YouTube. There's some fascinating theories being tossed out here that I think is actually getting to the bottom of the problem.
Justin says, have to remember ESPN is in Connecticut. Sabotage.
I mean, they can do all they want. They can't help Hartford. They can't help themselves. So
Sorry, Ryan. Cut you off again.
I was just saying the ESPN quality has been shit, and that's
Yeah,
kind of it.
yeah, like and it made
TLDR.
it made the rewatch harder, and I guess they don't want us to rewatch it. They don't want us to see some of the fouls that were called against Rhode Island FC. And Ryan, I know your wife had an interesting comment about the officiating.
She just it's funny, she's not a huge sports fan at all, and she thinks my sports fandom is insane in general. She did, though, at the end of this game say, "Do they always call all the fouls against us?" or something like that, and I was like, "Wow, this is fascinating that I don't feel alone in this one." So, yeah, not good.
Good, good. Tim mentions the Connecticut Post Office did quote lose multiple RIFC merch deliveries.
Are we about to get to the bottom of something on this
It
podcast?
might have been the Providence one, though. I heard there were big arrests in the Providence like big hub for stolen packages within recently. That is out there, and it's not a Go Local Prov article. It's
That's
a
a
legit
standard Rhode
article.
Island, it's okay.
Yeah, it's out there. But let's dive into this one. In pre-match, it was pretty interesting as um Clay Holstad was on the bench, but then there was a late, and I don't even want to call it a late scratch because Quizera was available via the bench. So something interesting happened, and we asked Matt from Raising Anchor, and he had no idea. And
Mhm,
so, like, I don't. The broadcasters kind of touched upon it, but they only said that um, Quizera and Holstad had essentially been swapped. But we saw a starting 11 of Koke Vegas, Gabi Alves, Frank Norase, Karifa Yao, Turnbull, Holstad, Ibarra, Panayoto, Fuzan, Dequa, and JJ Williams. So going back to our preview pod with Handsome John from Louisville, who was absolutely
great
fucking
guy.
awesome. Like
Mhm.
we meet some cool individuals on this. I absolutely love it. Um,
Also, shout out to the Louisville fans in general who came to join the tailgate. They brought, like, a
I,
welcome package, like,
hell yeah.
unbelievable.
We're not that cool. We're not there yet.
Nope.
But uh this is with Quizera stepping out for Holstad, was this the best starting 11 that we could possibly throw out there?
Yes, I had 2 of my 3-word reviews. One of them was, "It's the best 11. This is it. This is the team I wanna see from now on." I was actually, like, extremely disappointed before the game started that Holstat was on the bench because I was like, "Wait, it's almost a complete puzzle." And maybe Kano had a come to Jesus moment as well in the locker room being like, "Wait, I can almost do it." And, I was so psyched to see this 11 go out there.
Tim has an interesting theory. I think it was a conspiracy to help people sit Holstead in
Mm.
the Club Collector app.
Wait,
Very
what's
well.
Kano's, username on the Club Collector app?
He
Have
might
we
be in
checked
there.
this?
We'll have to check with Craig to see if he is indeed registered.
Memorial Day weekend, and everyone's just going deep on the rabbit holes here. I love it.
Yeah, Kevin's coming at me. It's fucking Fusan. I know. I'm on like my umpteenth Del Shandy of the day, so I apologize. The tongue is sticking to the roof of the mouth, if you will.
Ooh, Scott, I am fascinated to get involved in this one. The best 11 with Fusan. Ooh,
Oh, the best 11. Let's touch on that one in a little bit. Let's
yeah.
save that because there was a lot of Fusan hate in the Discord, and I thought his first 45 minutes were absolutely pretty stellar in this one. At least
Yeah, you're not gonna get any of that from me.
I think the first 20 or so, he really exposed Louisville in the down the left flank and put a really good ball in that JJ very well could hit home. But we will get to that. We will
Mhm,
get to that. So first half, obviously as the game will go and play out with that, it was a 0-0 match for this one. And I think there were quite a few chances that we had the ball and just could not
mhm.
pull off a shot. And I think it was highlighted by Marky Barra in the 7th minute. He got the ball at the edge of the box. He clipped in a low drive where I think if he went across the goal, upper left corner, maybe we're seeing 1-0 early. But I think it was a really, really good first half. Do you have your field tilt statistics at all on this
I
one?
do.
Or all right. Give me first half.
I don't have it by
All
half.
right.
For the whole game.
All right. So I thought we had the ball in very good situations, in very good places, and
Mhm,
I think a lot of what we did in the first half kind of came to Noah Fusan getting down that left flank. He put that ball into JJ. He was beating that defender quite a few times. He crossed one in. We had a header on it, and
mhm,
we were playing a little bit more direct than we were. He was getting the ball just on the edge of the box versus what we see with like Turnbull or Quizera getting the ball out in the corners and super out wide. So I think the directness and us narrowing the field, if you will, was just much better. And we just couldn't convert off of it, but
Yep.
it's what we want to see.
I thought it was fascinating. When you saw the front three lineup, it was Fuson on the left, Chico up the middle, and then JJ on the right. And I didn't like agree with that approach. I would have swapped JJ and Chico to start, but seeing it, I was like, okay, maybe the strategy is to use JJ as the outball, like let him use his physicality to really post up on that right, maybe more on like a fullback, really give him that advantage. But we were constantly going Fusan's direction, and it worked for a lot of the chances that we created in the first half. He had, the shot that hit the woodwork. He had, like you said, a couple crosses that went, they're pretty close. A couple chances created. So I know there was a lot of people who weren't loving his performance, but I genuinely thought he was solid this game.
I will say, and we've got some things in the chat. Fuzan got an F minus for me. We have Tim saying Fuzan had a crap game, but it was not his norm. He was better in the first 45, but he had some missteps there too. I thought his first 45 was his best by far. I think he ran his race at about 60 minutes. I think his legs were just absolutely gone from underneath him. There were a couple passes where I think the supporters made it or thought maybe he didn't give his full run at it down the left attacking flank in the second, but I think his legs were just absolutely cooked. You saw Chico's legs go with about 10 minutes to
Mhm.
go, but I think there were a couple passes, 2 or 3 specifically down that left, that I believe Jack played a couple of them down towards that left corner flag, that Noah, his legs weren't what they were obviously to start this match, but I think the passes were a little bit too overcooked as well.
That's the thing. It wasn't as if they were absolutely perfect. I think there was, and we'll get to this maybe in the good, the bad, the ugly, but there's still a chemistry being built, especially with that. I actually think the trio of Turnbull, Fuson, and Jack P was like super interesting, and that's where a lot of our chances were coming from, especially in the second half. And there was just some like a foot or 6 inches that were just a little bit off, that they just weren't on the same page. And I think, Jack P's only been training with the team for like 2 weeks. So as we continue to see this team gel, especially in the attacking third, where that's where it takes the longest, I hope to see that trio, especially, like really come to life.
Sure. Getting back to that first half, the first big talking point will, I believe, be Chico's penalty claim in the eighth. How did you see that one?
So I know there were a couple penalty claims, and shout out to Andrew for teeing this one up in the Discord today about how we were going to talk about these. That one I think was the most of any of them could have had like a chance. I actually think the other two weren't much. It's you can't even talk about the penalty. I do think the initial foul was very soft on Chico at bay, but you could squabble with it. If that was called against us, I would have a pretty big problem with it, because I would say, hey, the center back's trying to do his job. So I personally don't know that I want to see that be a penalty, because I don't think I would want it to be in our box called a penalty.
What's funny about the first chance, at least in my opinion, was it was called for the push on Chico.
Mhm.
Very soft fall, at least in my opinion. But the keeper comes out and absolutely clips him.
Oh,
If
to be clear, if the initial foul is not called, that is 100% a penalty. I want to be clear.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's definitely you know, the we got Megatron saying the first one wasn't a pen, the one near the end was a clear one. I think the one near the end was a little bit more, but I think the fall that preceded the penalty claim on the keeper was the bigger issue with this first chance in the 8th minute.
Mhm.
I think that if we're looking at that and that's, no Darcy that throws that push in, we're bitching that, like, that's not a fall. Like,
Yep.
what the fuck? So,
Yep.
that's my biggest one with that there. So, um, I don't know. I think it was a soft fall. The referee had a bit of a USL championship match, if you will,
Yeah.
and he was consistently bad, so we'll give him that. But
I also, just to be clear, my preference on penalties is that I'd rather them be cautious with calling penalties, because it is like an 80 to 90% goal that you're giving the other team. To be clear, if it's a clear pen, call it. But if it's 50-50, I'd actually rather them side on the not giving it.
see, I'm a little bit different in
Yeah.
in a league
You watched
without.
Harry Kane for a decade, so I get it.
I'm a little bit different in the league without VAR because
Fair.
there's no way to go back and look at it.
Well, the problem is, though, there's no way to go back either way.
Yeah, that fair, but I
We
always
actually
try.
on the final one, a fan in Defiance actually had a beautiful VAR clip that they shared with all of us
Right,
after the
right.
game. So nothing
I
you can
always
do about it, but
I always try to look at penalties as, how would I feel if it was the other way around? And I look at
Mhm.
that fall, and I think if that's no Darce, and say they don't call that push and they go and call that penalty on Koke, then I'm probably fine with the result.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, yep.
Yep. So it's an interesting one. I know a lot of people were head and shoulders, boom, that's a penalty. Uh, I agree. What occurred in the box was a penalty,
Mhm.
and I
Totally
I
agree.
I, I disagree with the fall that was actually called.
I mean, were
Um,
either of them any of the penalty shouts Turnbull last week?
yeah, right, right.
Because that was the clearest penalty I might have ever seen.
I agree with you. Definitely agree with you there. The next best chance I think for this one came obviously in the 23rd, and that was that Fuzan miss that hit the crossbar. Um, Louisville really struggled with our press in this one. We just weren't able to get into it as much as possible. They love to play it out the back, and we really disrupted that very well. The Noah chance was just an absolute sitter that I think he could have passed home rather than shoot home, and
I also think he picked the
unfortunately hit
wrong
the
side of the
post.
net.
Yeah, I think if he went the other way with it, the
Mhm.
keeper was already going, and it was absolutely good. But what did you make of the press and us kind of putting those center backs under pressure? And I think it was Clay that threw that first challenge in, left it off for Dequa, and Dequa slotted Noah in for the missed chance.
Yeah, again, we're gonna talk about this probably more in the good, bad, the ugly. So hopefully, hey, everyone get those in the chat so we can get to that section. But I thought we did a great job. The press was good when we had it on, but we also dialed it back when we needed to. So we had a couple, I think at least 3 turnovers that I wrote down that just came directly from us pressing them. And it again has been a cornerstone of how this team plays and any success that we've are building and hopefully will be in the future. I think will come from that.
Yeah, well said. We saw a Gabi Alves yellow card in the 25th minute, and then there was a pretty heated exchange that you caught live between him and Kano. So, you want to give your thoughts on that one? I didn't see it live, but definitely caught it
Mhm.
on the rewatch.
Yeah, I couldn't make out like what they were really talking about. It seemed to be much more about passing than any kind of defensive thing. I don't know if he was hoping to hit Fusan more down the wing or play short more. I absolutely could not make out what they were saying. I just saw Kano like swinging his leg as if in a passing action. His yellow card was very deserved. You take someone down, good tactical foul. They were breaking, so not going to ever quabble with that. But yeah, definitely, it's intriguing, especially if you want to go too deep into it. When Gabby's been a halftime sub the past 2 games, you could start to look into things a little more than you want to. But I don't think it's much. It's a coach and a player, trying to figure it out there.
Yeah, interesting caveat to that was he was subbed off at the half. I think that after the yellow, he was much more timid. He wasn't
Mhm.
going into challenges. He was kind of letting that ball settle down with Louisville City players and then kind of trying to move off of it. And he got exposed, and Nodarse covered for him a few times. We'll talk a little bit more about Nodarse a little later on. Uh, but I think he was not the same player after that yellow and after that interaction. I think it's
And to be clear, he can't be the same
right,
player.
right. I
Yeah.
think it was more so to do with the yellow than, the interaction, but we'll definitely touch on that a little bit more as we go. Um, I do think one thing, and we talked about it a little bit at the end of this, was the back line, and they were absolutely
Mhm.
tremendous. There were so many block shots. They were funneling in really well, and I think a lot of that had to do with the depth that they played. We were deep. We sat extremely deep. We were inside the six a lot of times, and we had, four, if not five players, behind the ball and really kind of tucking in and blocking shots. And it was a really a team commitment to blocking shots. But the depth of the back line and how deep it was really surprised me for how we've played early. And I'll give Kano credit because I'll be the first to throw Kano under the bus if I don't like something. But I do think that was very, very tactical as far as this one goes.
I was super super impressed. I've called out the defense on a couple occasions this season, especially for their over aggressiveness, and they were more or less the opposite this game. 20 tackles, but only 10 of them were falls. I think there was multiple times, they turned the press on, but the minute that the press was broken, you saw at least 10, if not all 11 players behind the ball. Again, funneling everyone in. John from USL Tactics on Twitter, he had a great graphic showing like our center mids played like really, really tight on defense. So they made it really hard for them to execute. So yeah, just in general, this was a very, very, very good defensive performance that was even better on the second watch.
From a team who likes to play it out of the back as much as we do,
Mhm.
that's why I found the deep line so interesting because you would think they would kind of clog things up,
Mhm.
for Koke. And Koke was hesitant to play the long ball, it seemed. I know we give the countdown on the opposing keeper and their kick times, but watching the rewatch, Koke took his sweet ass time on a lot of goal kicks and never really picked out. He looked at JJ on one long one,
Mhm.
but he was very hesitant to play the ball, you know, outside of the box on most of those goal kicks. So an interesting tactic as far as sitting that line in. And I wonder if part of the Koke taking so long was just because Kano knows that this Louisville offense was just so potent and just another extra step built in to try to slow them down.
I mean, definitely not a bad idea with what Louisville's done this season. I think they were mentioning on the broadcast they have a historic level of goal differential at this point in the season. But also, I think it's slowing it down, letting everybody reset. Make sure we're in shape, and then going from there. So, in general, obviously, you should try to get that our counter going as soon as possible. But if it's not on, take your time, make the right pass.
Yeah, I think it was just a very good defensively executed tactic and game plan from Kano and from the boys. Uh, I one thing I will say is Louisville in the second half particularly spent a lot of time, but their center back spent a lot of time in our attacking half and were able to funnel the ball back in. And I think that had to do with a lot of that deep line, but I'm okay with it because it worked out really well. And I mentioned Odarse, and his blocks were just absolutely unbelievable throughout this one. He had one where he had a double block. I
Mhm.
believe it was the let me see, I got my minutes pulled up here. I think it was the 42nd minute, so right before half, he had two blocks in that one. I think the Defiance got it wrong, and we can talk about this. But Frank Nodarse for me was the man of the match. I know he scored in the last one out, but I think this was by far his best match of the season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I tried to, if not did, vote for him on the Defiance man of the match, and then on a rewatch, I know he got it from the league as well, but he really stood out. He had one or two moments where he still did some things right. Just I'm like, please, just be patient. But yeah, he was just putting his body on the line again and again and again. I don't know how many block shots he specifically had, but at least 2 to 3, if not more. So yeah, was just very impressed with him. I thought he was very reminiscent of what the defensive effort looked like on the day, of people just putting their body on the line, people just really giving it their all, which I appreciate.
Sure, I've got Frank's full stats pulled
All
up
right,
right
good.
now. It's 7.4 on Fought Mob. He completed 54 of 60 accurate passes at 90% clip there, 77 touches, 10 passes into the final third. He
Yep.
also had that really nice, like, kind of mazy run where he got in there. 5 for 7 on his accurate long balls. He only had one tackle that he won, but had five block shots, six clearances, two headed clearances, two interceptions, 14 defensive actions, three recoveries. He was only dribbled past once. He won five duels, only lost two.
Yep.
Um, just an absolute monster shift from Frank, and he was very error prone early in the season.
Mhm.
Kind of looked like the golden retriever puppy chasing the tennis ball. But I thought this was just an absolute stout performance from Frank.
Yeah, and that's really the type of stat line I'd like to see from a center back personally, like 90% plus passing accuracy. Actually, not a lot of tackles. I prefer the center backs more contain and intercept, not tackle. I think that just gets them into problems. Like you said, winning his defensive duels, especially for him, the aerial duels is important. So that type of stat line where he's really just being conservative, being safe, and winning when he needs to win, and then those block shots, like we said, is they were huge on the day.
Right. So final stats for this one: 52% possession for RIFC to 48 for Louisville, nine total shots for 16 for Louisville. They had three on target. As Megatron mentioned in the chat, we had none on target. So that's definitely an interesting one. We got to shoot. We got to shoot the ball. Just shoot the ball, and good things will happen. Um, Big chances for either team was actually zero. It's 330 passes for us, 282 for them, 5 corners for them, 2 for us. Just a overall statistically go back and forth. It kind of volleys out to being a pretty even matchup. But I asked John, who hopped on with us on the last one, what he thought of this one. Uh, from his perspective post match, and he said, "Always good to get a point on the road, but we had our chances. RIFC is a solid squad. Wouldn't be surprised to see them in the postseason. Would be more surprised not to see them. The Draw Kings held Louisville City to 3 shots on goal. Not an easy feat. Awesome support. Clap emoji." And we thought the support was kind of muted on ESPN Plus. So I know there were a lot of Louisville fans there. So hopefully that's what they reported out. John, if you're watching, we got some stickers going out to you. We delivered to some of your friends. So hopefully they hook you up. But any other big takeaways from this one, Ryan, before we hop into those other segments?
Got them all queued up for the next couple segments, so let's get to it.
All right, so let's start it off with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do you got for the good?
It's the good. So in the preview we did with John, I said a couple things in there that I said, if we have a chance to win this game, this is what's going to happen. And I actually think we nailed the 3 areas that I mentioned. So first one was keeping possession and keeping a controlled pressure with our press. So you just mentioned it. We edged possession. I saw it as 53%. We also won the field tilt battle at 52. I thought the midfield did a really good job controlling a lot of that. Control pressure. So we had the press that created Fusan's chance where he hit the woodwork, but we did a great job being committed on defense. So get the team, like I mentioned, getting behind the ball, also blocked 9 shots, 0 big chances created. Again, only 20 tackles, but on top of 10 fouls. So like we were very, very controlled in this game, which I appreciate. I've been I've been really on the team about not being over aggressive at the back. And I think we saw a very, very sound defensive performance that was very controlled throughout. Next up was stopping Davia, who was one of their midfielders, from quickly starting attacks and feeding that dangerous front 3. He only completed 32 passes with a 78% accuracy. This is by far his lowest of the season in both those metrics, beside the first game where he only played a half. And again, shout out to the midfield. I thought they really made it tough for him being condensed. And then finally, minimize crosses. Louisville had only 2 out of 22 crosses completed. For everyone out there, they complete an average of 5 per game on 24%. So again, we just did all of those things that gave us a chance to be in this game and to win this game. So just very proud of the team there.
Yeah, my good is just the defense, as many have said, and you've gone with it. And this is Louisville's first game not scoring a goal, so I think that's absolutely just impressive.
It's also not even just this season. I think it's since like mid last season too.
Right,
it's crazy.
Right. I think if you had told me in the parking lot 0-0, I would have bit your hand off and said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll take that all day." I think I expect the Louisville to score at least once, if not twice. I think my initial prediction on the preview was 2-2. So the fact that it was 0-0, I think, is more of a testament that we imposed our will on them than they were able to play their game versus us. And I think
it wasn't even like we were, fingernails and squeaky bum time like Vegas. Like it was truly like they didn't really have much. Again, like you said, 0 big chances created for them. Like they didn't have anything, which is like you couldn't ask for more.
Right. I mean, 16 shots, 3 on target, and all 3 were comfortable for Goke. It wasn't like, he had that one that he dove, but I think that ball was trickling out anyway, kind of looking at it. So the good is definitely the defense and the fact that we were able to impose our will there. The bad for me is just us in the final third. It's the 0 shots on target for us. That's just got to be better. It's got to be us kind of, getting more comfortable playing together. And I think finally seeing the starting 11 that we've all wanted to see for so long definitely will improve on that. We've got some bad Fusan in the chat, but like I said, I think Fusan was really good. In that first half, I think his legs just kind of tweaked out on him. But what do you got?
Yeah, so I only prepared one, which also was the final third. Like you said, 0 shots on target. We had 50% passing accuracy in the final third. Last game was 59%. So it's just not clicking there yet. Again, you have someone brand new in there. Jack's only been with the team 2 weeks. So we're starting to see some moments where at least I wouldn't say creating something, but there's definitely more ideas happening. We just, as Evan has mentioned multiple times, we do just need to shoot more in general. But It wasn't for lack of ideas. I just think the final third execution was just not there. Like there was multiple times again, Jack P was feeding Noah, who was just like again an inch or two off there. He did have that really great like behind the I don't know if it's a back heel, but like loop that almost fed that Jack P great
Some of
shot.
his turns are like he can turn on the ball and
Mhm.
advance the ball, or it's a turn, half turn and a pass. So like
Yep.
it's just he's so tidy with it.
Yeah, so I think there's something there, and I just would love to see again that trio of Turnbull, Noah, and Jack work together a couple more games to really see if we can do something there. And then you have JJ Williams, who seems to like really have a knack for getting something on the ball when it gets in the box. He's not converting yet, but like you can see his instincts are really there. I like that he's not afraid to just I'll get my toe on this and direct it somewhere near the goal.
Right.
It didn't work out this game, but you can see what he's going to bring throughout the season. So yeah, I while again this is a bad you got to make the goalkeeper work. Having 0 shots on target is not ever going to win you a single game ever. But you can see that there is. I think we compare this to like the North Carolina game. I think it looked better than that, which is not a high bar at all. But you can see the seeds kind of starting to germinate there.
All right. You mentioned Evan. He says, "Shoot the freaking ball." I
Yeah,
say it every week.
he's not wrong.
I think I talked with you and I talked with Nate about it, at the rail when we were allowed there for a few minutes was, we had one early on where we put one in and the keeper made a nice like gather on it, but spillage doesn't happen if you don't put the ball in on the keeper. So I think we have some really good poachers in Dequa and JJ, but we have to put those balls in and around the goal to get that spillage and to be able to pounce on it
Yep.
and kind of attack it from there.
Yeah, and I
I'm
guess
glad you mentioned JJ, and then I'll let you go again. He had one play, I think it was the 32nd minute, where he brought the ball down, and it was just such a smooth touch,
yeah.
and he had this like I wouldn't even call it a half chance. I would call it like a maybe like a tenth of a chance,
Mhm.
and he got it towards the goal. It was deflected and ended up going out for a corner, but he makes something out of nothing. And I mentioned it in the Discord, and he's just a fucking unit. He's got Jason Varitek thighs. Like he's going to come good. I struggle to say this. I don't know how much better we're going to see from Chico in this system,
Mm.
but JJ is, and I talked to them for a bit after the match as he was signing Zach's flag, and I said, "Hey, man, like really good to see you getting back into fitness and seeing what you're doing." And he goes, "Hey, I just really want to apologize for missing that header. Like, and I had another really good chance." He's like, "I should have scored at least one today," and he was genuinely upset. Like, I could feel it as like he man hugged my hand with his massive mitts. I could feel how angry he was and like genuinely sad. So like he's bought into this culture,
Yep.
and he really wants to score for this club. So I think that fire in his belly is just going to be absolutely outstanding going forward.
Yeah, I mean, one pushback on I don't know if Chico will get better. I think JJ will make Chico better. Is my only
Sure,
pushback there
I
because
think
he had I think
the
12
two of
assists
them
last year.
firing will definitely make each other better and
Yep.
play off each other better. But
Yeah,
I think as far as goals and goal contributions, it's going to come
fair.
quicker from JJ.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's been a lot of Fusan talk this episode, but I genuinely think that front three, there's a lot of talent there that I really think they complement each other in interesting ways. So I'm just excited to see how this team gels over the course of the season.
Yeah, I think that the more JJ and the more Dequa kind of link up and get
Mhm.
better, it's going to open up those opportunities for Fusan. So we won't see these shit talking in the chat about Fusan, who played a decent game. That might be a Kano thing. You got to get him out of there a little bit quicker when you kind of see
Well,
those legs going.
my I guess my other one final thing on the Noah Fusan episode. I think I don't know how to say this. In order to get those like high profile misses or high profile chances, you have to be in the right place.
Sure, sure.
So the fact that he was in and around the areas and making the runs that were dangerous, I do think is I think that gave us something that no one else was giving us. So that's why I think I'll defend him a bit more than some people will, especially on rewatch. Like he really was making some very good runs, really good, having really good interplay. Like I said, with Jack, especially in that second half. So yeah, I have to give him credit for that. And while it didn't come off this episode, this match, I think there's a lot there.
Yep. We also had Joe in the chat saying Dequa was limping towards the end.
Mm.
Didn't seem to be any defender on the overhead passes. Still nursing the injury. I think for him, it also looked like his race was run. I think he looked a little bit timed out on there. Kind of what he was getting at. But did we hit the ugly? Are we on the ugly? Is that where we're at?
Yes. I think his like calf cramped up is what I saw.
Yeah, it was warm. It was weird playing in the sun in a little bit warmer weather, based on what we've been used to. But yeah, I think he just kind of had run his race. I know Scott's a big Quazera fan, and he's thrown in
To be
there.
clear, I think it's an interesting like tactical discussion of does a Quizera who's much more of a winger give you a different look out there? Scott, I would love to see potentially like that change made just to see what it looks like. My only concern is that you don't have the balance on the other side between Chico and JJ as another winger. So I do think there's some odd fits in this system that I hopefully over the course of the season we can iron out. But I don't think that is a I don't like disagree that there could be a definitely different like perspective that Quizera gives you because he's definitely more of an out and out winger.
Right, as Kevin says, Quazera just crosses to
Oh,
no one.
can I give you a fun stat that I have not been able to bring up and I don't have a space for it?
Go for it.
Ready for this? Only 10 crosses this game, and we hit 4 of them. We were 40% on crosses this game, folks.
Season high by far.
Season high in the percentage, but season low on the actual crosses. It was we were just making the right decisions a lot of
Making
ways.
better
Yes.
crosses.
So
And I
boom.
think that might have to do, Scott, and what do you got for the ugly?
So my ugly, where was this against Colorado? North Carolina, there was injuries in play, but where was this against North Carolina? Where was this against Phoenix? Where was this against Pittsburgh, Monterey? This team is very frustrating because this performance was really outstanding. And if we play with this type of focus on the defensive end, this kind of energy, this kind of commitment, we are going to come away with a lot more results that we've given away in the past. So this should be the bar for where we're at from the rest of the season in terms of, again, focus, commitment, energy. There's a lot of things in a soccer game that you can not control. That is what you can control, and the team needs to bring that every single week.
I'm going to piggyback on Brendan in the chat who said the ugly are fitness. I mentioned, I think a lot of the Noah hate came down to him just being left out there too long.
He also, I don't know if you saw though, he got him and the goalie went up at the same time and he got kind of like smoked in the leg by the goalie. So again, I want to actually, I'll just be clear here. I'm a huge Noah defender. Like I love Noah. So
yeah. And
it's coming across.
I'm not knocking him on that, but I'm also, I'll knock Kano a little bit on that. Like Quazera was changed from the 11 and you notice Noah's kind of not running the same. Throw him out there, get him out there, get him in there.
My only thing though, we didn't see him at all. So I have to assume something happened in the warm up or something. Like this is the problem with us knowing nothing about what happened. I guess
the interesting piece of that is Isaac Anking came on, and my only thought was, please don't give up a late bad fall in a shitty situation. Which he didn't. He played well. He did what he had to do. But I think Chico ran his race and was not pulled. I think Noah ran his race or was hurt and was not pulled. But it was good seeing McGlynn get back in there as far as the sub.
He looked good.
But hopefully now that we have some more players available, we're able to kind of rotate a little bit better. We'll see the fitness piece of it actually change out a little bit.
Yep.
As far as that goes. But
yeah, especially once like JJ can do 90s, like it just gives you a lot more flexibility because he's obviously still building his fitness in general. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. Let's kick it to RIFC in 3. If you are watching or listening, this is our 3-word review segment. And if you're in the chat and you want to put yours in the chat and you didn't get a chance to, kind of respond to our social media posts, we'll pull them up on air. I'll start on Facebook. And we had Joseph Golombowski who said, absolutely incredible game. It was just a great day. I'll give it that. It was a really good game. It was fun to be at. It was fun to cheer on. The rewatch, although through dealing with the ESPN its quality control issues was not that great, but just it was an absolutely great game. We'll head to Instagram for the next few. Mindful Chimera, long live DK, in parentheses, the draw kings. Long live the draw kings. Long live the draw kings.
I prefer they become the wing kings, but fair.
Yeah, we'll take that. WTM 1970. We need goals. We do need goals. We need shots on target. We need to get goals. Those shots on target, those balls into the box, as I mentioned, will lead to spillage. It'll lead to more goals. So we definitely do want that. Mike Mona is 14. 4 o'clock rules. I've said my piece on that in the opening and early on. I will totally agree with you that. Brian Luch, who might have the best one, pale ale slaps. We talked about it. I'm actually out. That's why I'm drinking Del Shandy right now. I don't have any of the RIFC cans. And Ryan, big thank you to you because I fucking forgot my cooler at home
Unbelievable.
before I left. I had the whole family, so at least I got both kids in the car, I guess. But I left the cooler
I
at
did
home.
see them both there. As long as I didn't see you put it in the car on the way home, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Ryan hooked me up with the pale ale, so that was definitely good to have going on there. So the 3-word reviews, we've been getting a lot of good feedback on those. Ryan, do you have a 3-word review that you want to get in here?
Yeah. So I mentioned one of them, which was the best 11, but my other one was a full 90. We have seen this team perform well in halves. We've seen us perform well in spurts. We've seen us perform well 88 to 90 minutes against Sacramento, but this one was truly an end-to-end performance where we didn't, give up a late goal at the end of the game or at the end of a half. We stayed as committed since minute 1 to minute 90. I think 93 ended up being so. Full 90 performance, and again, this should be the expectation and the minimum going forward. But nice to see it happen finally.
Absolutely. We got a Joe who also responded on Twitter. I'm assuming he is lumberjack_JP, Joe Perot, who says, held Louisville scoreless. Quite a feat indeed.
Yeah,
Scott,
I almost
God,
hope that we're not like discrediting how actually impressive that is. Like literally no one else has done it in an
right.
extremely long time. So like I hope that, while we're all frustrated about the attacking side of this team, like this was a huge defensive performance. And I hope we all can feel a bit better moving forward there.
Absolutely. We've got Scott who says a
Yep.
very valuable point. I know we've had quite a few points, but this one more valuable than the others.
This is one at the beginning of the season when you looked at the schedule, you'd want a point there.
Sure,
So
sure,
yeah.
absolutely. Evan says drew a picture. I like the little pun there. Always a big fan of that. Tim, who is a Defiance board member, says best opponent visitors. I'm sure he's benefiting from that whiskey package that was delivered by the Coopers. And what else do we got here? We've got strategically boring football from Scott.
Love it.
Brendan says section 13 atmosphere. And yes, hammer that one home because it was not picked up by ESPN. Like I said, I think they tuned it out a little bit. Kevin says, "Don't skip me." Kevin, did I miss yours? Did I not pull it up? Did you put in there?
Kevin, put it in again.
Kevin, put it in again. We've had a lot of comments in here. So again, if you're listening to this on the pod, this has been our by far our most active chat here on YouTube. So Kevin, please put it in there. I wasn't intentionally skipping you. I'm trying to find it in the chat, but mine was up the tide, TIED, because we are continuing to tie and get in there. Brendan also says trunk wine madness. Love that. I didn't get to have any of Kevin's new flavors,
Damn.
so that was me getting there a little late. My oldest Zach had a birthday party he went to, so I got slid in there a little bit late. But Kevin was shirtless, another one in there, so definitely love that. Or is his 3 don't skip me?
The intrigue builds.
I don't know. Like, we're waiting. So
is he gonna hit us with tune in to Call Hog Corner tomorrow to hear his? Like, is he gonna pull a whole stunt on us right now?
That would be absolute epic marketing. I know he had in there. He'll save some of his takes on some of ours for his. So if you're not already following Kevin on Twitter, make sure you go follow the Fluffy Call Hog Boy. Tune in tomorrow night at 9 p.m. to the Call Hog Corner. You can even we're not as fancy as getting your mics on our stream, but we do pull the chat in. But you can hop on his stream. You can scream and yell into the phone like Ryan does, shirtless or one sock on. But you can get in there as well. So you better tune in tomorrow to the Kevin's Corner. So up next, the first derby between RIFC and Shartford. It's an interesting one. They're coming off a win. They were also blasted by Louisville City. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I think we can go in there and get a result. I don't know if it's the fucking blue kits that are cursed for us or what it is. But
Good theory.
I do think we can get in there. Shout out to Irvin for kind of calling out the troops. But he ended. We'll give Irvin a little stick on this one. Who ended with, "We're gonna be really pissed off at you if you lose." It sounded like a very disappointed parent on that one. So definitely, definitely love that. Kevin's saying 3 words, Jesus Christ. I don't know what's going on if he wants us to pull it. What his 3-word take is or whatnot. But we've got Hartford up next. Ryan, you're taking the fan bus down. I'm driving down with Zach. We're gonna join the tailgate though. So we do got that. But like Scott says, beating Hartford in the Rhode Island kit, the road kit, will be iconic. That's definitely my favorite kit of the two. So I'd love to see that win get in there. But how you feeling about this one as we make the trip down 95?
You know, what do they say? Derbies, you can't predict what's going to happen. They're a complete, form goes out the window, all that stuff.
That's the one.
I think that from what I've seen with like the club and the way that, they have buses going down, there's the atmosphere, the speech after the game. It seems like the club understands that this is important. They're really trying to build this up as the Route 6 Rumble or something like that. Is that what we're doing? Yeah. So I think this is a very winnable game. I think we need to do it. As Evan said, I will be very upset if we lose.
So
honestly, though, more so, it's like if we did lose, how did we lose? But that, I mean, again, we'll get into it.
Hartford's got one win in their last 5, and that was off a depleted Monterey Bay squad, just absolutely riddled with injury. They came away with a 2-1 home win over Monterey Bay. Time before that was a 4-1 loss versus Indy. It was a 2-0 loss versus Colorado before that, a 1-0 loss versus Charleston, and a 6-0 thumping at the hands of Louisville. I
think my favorite running bit is when we have our away game or away section episodes. Each team comes on, they have just like thumped Hartford, and we have to thank them for it. It's a nice running tradition.
That was really cool with John that we were able to do that. I think this is going
to be the switchbacks too with Annie.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a real interesting one. I think there are goals for us, and if we can knock it on the goal sheet there, then we'll have to take a look at a lot of adjustments that need to be made. But we'll save those score predictions midweek, as we'll have a surprise guest coming on one of these days. And then it is a good point, like Evan brought up in the chat. If we play defensively, like we just played against Louisville, we should beat them. We do need to find that balance of defense versus, scoring and getting some goals off that high press as we're getting in good spots. But I think there are points there to be made. It'll be a fun day out. It'll be a fun away day. Really looking forward to this one. Huck Hartford. We got some stickers coming. I might try to get a shirt made before ahead of time for that one. Maybe a tattoo if we win. We'll see what happens. But
you guys heard it here first.
That's it. We'll do it up. Points to be had. I think they are there, and that'll help kind of put us in a much better position for the playoffs. So we'll talk about that after. But make sure you tune in. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we will be coming at you midweek with a surprise episode with a guest that we'll bring on. So, Ryan, what do you got for any final thoughts? Anything we missed? Anything you want to clean up on this one?
No, shout out to Noah Fuson, who had the best game of the season so far. I'm just kidding. No, but hey, shout out to the team for the defense. As Evan just said in the chat, bring that defense next week, and we will have a much. I think there's a lot to take from.
It'll be a fun bus ride home.
Fun bus ride home, and again, that should be the level we're bringing every week, boys. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a good one. I think we're in for a good run kind of coming up now that we have our best 11 players available to start. I do think we'll be on some good times going forward. So that will Evan wants to know if Ryan's trying to just make him mad.
Yes. Actually, I do have one more thing. Thanks to everyone who came up to us yesterday. It said thanks, said nice things about the podcast. I will never be used to people saying shit like that, but I really appreciate it, and you guys are awesome.
My wife was astounded. She's like, "How do these people know?"
My brother was very confused.
There was some people who came up and was like, "Hey, you're Matt, right? I recognize your voice." And I was like, "That's the other voice too." Put it at Ryan. But like, it's so cool to see, because like obviously we don't do this for any kind of like fame or whatever. We just like talking about the club. We like breaking stuff down. We like having an excuse to go hide in a spare room on a Sunday night and just kind of talk football. So I appreciate everyone who tuned in. If you didn't get a sticker from us, we're almost out. So come see us. Make sure we'll definitely hook you up with that and get you going. So they want to know if our surprise guest is Chip. He'll answer any questions as Morse code beeping his nose. It is really cool to hear the nose speak.
It's actually Chip doing a dance off with Kevin again. It's a whole episode.
Shirtless. My youngest was so impressed with Chip. We bought him the Chip t-shirt while we were there.
Hell yeah.
And he kept talking about how when Chip walked by, we yelled Chip, 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 Chip. So to make a 3-year-old's day. Just absolute top-notch mascot.
What can't
So
Chip do?
that's it. That's it. I said in the opening, we'd try to be shorter than the Dell's line. This ended up being our longest episode to date. So apologize for that. But we will roll. We'll continue with that. Make sure you tune in midweek. This will wrap it up for this one. Remember, RIFC Nation is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for our daily social media content. Click that link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts. If you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, you got to get in there. The match day contests are just fucking cool. It's a really good job. Really well done by Craig. Make sure you check it out and type in the code RIFC Nation, all one word, to get a free pack to add to your collection. Thanks again for tuning in. I've been your host, Matt, and for my trusty sidekick, Ryan, we'll see you next time in Hartford. And as always, up the tide.
Up the tide.